So all the people that have been giving America cheap or wonderful goods for toilet paper, it's coming to an end. Is that what you're saying, Andy?
It is. And the Belt Road Initiative, those trade routes, the maritime channels, the bridges, the railways, the roads, will only be patrolled by military and by commerce. This is the Panama Canal on steroids. And when you realize that there's 150 plus countries on the Belt Road, you're talking all of these entities together comprise well north of 80% of human population. This is a big deal because these entities are not going green, and we are. And when you see Saudi Arabia join this union, not only the BRICS, but the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and with the rest of OPEC on the Belt Road, it starts to come together like, whoa, they're going to say to the world, hey, we're done with just taking dollars. When that happens, it's a very big problem. And that's why you're seeing rumors of Japan, New Zealand, Australia, and now Mexico signing up for the BRICS nations or for their economic union. This is a big deal. It's little by little by little by little. All of these pieces, which in and of themselves are not as relevant until you look at the big picture. And you're talking the majority of human population joining together in a drive for prosperity, and one that is based upon mutual benefit rather than being under the thumb of the West and the Western influence.
Deception, betrayal, collusion. And those days are coming to an end. We've betrayed the rest of the world. We've given them fake money. We screw them if they don't on the SWIFT system. We're a bully out there.
I mean, look what the European Union just did with the sanction money that they took from Russia. They didn't just sanction it, they now confiscated it. And this is a very, very, very big problem. I think that is only exacerbating. And that's why I often wonder in the recesses of my mind late at night when I'm laying in bed, was this all intended? When you weaponize the dollar and make everyone think, geez, am I on the wrong side of the West? I better make alliances with the other countries who are all moving away from that system. And you have to ask yourself, when we have a $31 trillion debt, 76 trillion unfunded in Social Security, about 130 or 40 trillion in funded and unfunded liabilities. And so is the game over? By doing what they are doing, were they finding a scapegoat? Xi Jinping, Saudi Arabia, Russia, the OPEC countries, are they finding a villain that they can point to? Where most people in this country, that's all they need to hear and they'll believe it, instead of realizing that the brain dead monetary policy of the West and our bullying of the world has led us to this point. And I think that's what is bringing everyone to the table, and what makes it work will be the backing of commodities and the immutability and veracity of those commodities. If they do it right, pledge to a distributed ledger with auditing done and transparency, and like that, it's over. Because the world will dump dollars if they no longer need to own them to buy oil, and flock to a system of mutual beneficial understanding and cooperation and transparency.
So what's happening now are the BRICS are saying no more of this garbage, because you keep printing this stuff. That's called counterfeiting. You know, that'd be like me going to your restaurant and giving you fake money. And you're giving me real food, real service, you have labor cost, taxes, and all this stuff, but I keep giving you fake money. And that's what the United States has been doing for years now, especially since 64 and 71, when they took silver, replaced our coins, and gold replaced this fake dollar. That's what Andy is talking about. And the world is going to say, we're going to put the world on a real money, a real commodity, oil, food, things like this schedule. So this thing is trash. That's what you're saying, isn't it, Andy?
It's 100% what I'm saying. And for the first time, only a decade ago, and especially in and of themselves, these countries would not have ever been able to stand up to the West. That's why you hear people say, well, it's the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry hamper, or as Doug Casey says, that the prettiest mare at the slaughterhouse, that being the dollar. No one has ever been able to stand up against the West. But this union of countries joining together for mutual beneficial relationships, mending broken fences, centuries old. Iraq and Iran, Saudi Arabia and Iran, these countries that have hated each other are now rallying against the old saying, my enemy's enemy is my friend. And Iran and Saudi Arabia have just, on behalf of China's brokering, have just started new relations, putting embassies in each other's countries. They are beginning to find a common ground. And that's the thing, is that they're finding a way to cooperate. And that's the most important thing, is that that's what the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Belt Road Initiative, and the BRICS is about. That's the rallying cry. Let's all get over here against the West, against the big schoolyard bully. But the way to make it work is to make everyone have equal footing. Like if you look at the BRICS, and I don't know how many years each one has, but their presidency rotates. It's not one central player like China. It rotates. They're already getting that right. You allow everyone equal footing. And how do you do that? Everyone pledges a commodity, just like we were told is going to happen with the BRICS currency. Everyone pledges a commodity to the system and using distributed ledger technology to show the veracity of it.
So is distributed ledger, do I call that blockchain, or am I
Yes,
off?
they will use blockchain to show what each country has pledged to the system.
So that's a deception, betrayal, collusion. That's the world we live in right now.
And that's what is fostering this union of countries.
Let's say Mexico. Do you remember in the 60s, there was a thing called the Cuban Missile Crisis? And that was because, Havana or Cuba went Russian and they were putting missile bases there. So now today you're telling us that Mexico, who's closer than Cuba, and they're a big trading partner, a lot of food and things that come from Mexico. What does it mean if and when, and I think there's more when, Mexico joins the BRICS? What's going to happen? What's the ripple effect from that?
First of all, they're the second largest economy in South or Latin America. And, I think you could take this out, use your mind's eye and extrapolate this out. Let's just say they do join the BRICS. And this puts a lot of things into context when you think about it this way. Let's just say 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now that they're deeply entrenched with the BRICS nations. They're in with the BRICS. They're trading with the BRICS. They still are friendly with the United States, but they're trading with the BRICS. They're using the BRICS settlement. And let's just say that the BRICS have some sort of like a NATO, but it's with the BRICS. Can you only imagine the way that we would feel having military bases right outside Texas on the border of Mexico with Chinese and Russian military? I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just thinking out loud, but put that into context when you think about what Russia's dealing with NATO encroaching, and you can understand the way they feel. Now, I am not condoning war. I am not condoning anything. I'm just saying, think about this in a broader context. What if something like that happened? That part of this deal, because the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is also a military cooperation organization. That's part of it. So what if that happened and you have military bases right on the US-Mexico border that are BRICS united? Now, maybe that's way out there. Maybe that doesn't happen. But I think when you talk about this union between Mexico and the BRICS nations, it's another piece like in the game of Jenga. When you keep pulling out pieces against the Western hegemony, bang, something falls. It's going to, one of these days it falls.
But the start, when Mexico joins the BRICS, we're going to have to start dealing in Chinese crypto yuan, is what you're saying.
Well, it could very well be, yes. I mean, there's still a long way to go from applying to being accepted and a full member. So let's not confuse that. There's a long way to go. But the fact that they are moving in that direction, the fact that we hear rumors that Australia, New Zealand, and Japan are moving in that direction, it's just more nails in the coffin of the Western hegemony. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. If all of a sudden the majority of the world is trading in a new settlement currency and the dollar is rendered worthless, either the US has to pivot and do something of their own with a gold-backed, like we talked about before, a gold-backed International Monetary Fund special drawing rights, or we'll get with the game and in order to trade with the majority of the world, it will be in a new currency.
That's beyond my brain right now. But at the banks that just went down, what was Janet Yellen saying?
If I have a constituent in Oklahoma who has $5 million in a regional bank and it goes under, will he be bailed out? And she said, no. You just bailed out Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank. Why would you not bail out all of these regional banks? And she basically said it would have to be supermajority decision from the FOMC, the FDIC, and me, Janet Yellen, where we will decide if those banks that are not systemically too big to fail get bailed out or not. It will be whether or not we believe that the systemic reaction from that bank going down will create too big a ripple effects. We'll take the opposite side of that. If you live in a small town where the bank has helped you build a business or helped you get from where you were to where you are and you have your life savings in that bank, how safe do you feel with that money in the bank after what she just said? Probably not very. So you're going to yank that money out and send it over to Bank of America or Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or wherever it is and have all the money concentrated in a handful of banks, because these regional banks, unless they're systemically connected, evidently they felt that Signature Bank was and Silicon Valley Bank was. If not, goodbye, you're done.
Anyway, what Andy is talking about here is called the Communist Manifesto, 1848. Our banks in America are going to a centralized banking, as close to communism because we don't have capitalism anymore. I call it Marxist monetary theory. So what is MMT?
It's just basically you print as much money as you want to solve the problem. But that doesn't work in a globalized economy where the rest of the world says, why do we want your dollar that is worthless? And that's why all of these countries are using commodities, in particular gold, and its revaluation by the Bank of International Settlements in 2019 as a high quality liquid asset, in essence, tier one. They're accumulating things that are real and they are going to use them to back a new system while the West.
We're following right now, the Bank of International Settlements is a central bank.
That is correct.
And what they said in 2017 was that gold is now money.
They see what's coming and they're moving ahead of this.
Yep.
And the rest of us in this country are more concerned about things that are just completely missing the ball when the rest of the world is growing together in a very tight-knit group.
You know, when Rich Dad Poor Dad, I said savers are losers. And what Andy is talking about, why I've said that years and years ago, 25 years ago now.
Yeah, if you save in dollars, you will be a loser.
You don't want to say you keep your gold at home because you'll be visited immediately. You know, I mean, it's not the brightest thing to do.
If you can hold it yourself and remove all counterparty risk, remember, gold and silver are some of the only assets in the world that are not simultaneously someone else's liability, like that dollar, like your deposit in a bank, like a security, like a bond. Those are all have counterparty risk. Holding gold and silver in your own possession is complete and total removal of counterparty risk. And I believe you have a greater chance of being ripped off by the system, by the banks, by everything than you do by someone coming to your home thinking you have gold and silver in it.
So the whole point here is this: we don't save this. We store gold and silver coins. If a push comes to a shove and this thing, I don't know what's going to happen to this thing because it's toilet paper, but our employees are protected because we want to make sure that our most valuable asset, which are the people that work for us, are taken care of.
If you're not a contrarian, you're going to be a victim. And if all of your wealth is held in dollars and dollar-based assets, you're destined to go broke or have your money taken from you by a bank that